All right, so 10 things that are probably going to happen to you as soon as you get to the United States Marine Corps Fleet. More on the infantry side of things. A little background on me is my name was Corporal Martinez when I was in, although essentially I kind of picked up Corporal like in the last 2 weeks before I got out. Particularly at that point, they were kind of giving out that rank to anybody who had a heartbeat, essentially. So I was pretty much a Lance Corporal for the majority of my contract. Going on 2 deployments, my first one being mainly just staying in Kuwait, standing post there, and not really doing much. I mean, I got double the paycheck, so I honestly didn't care. So on my second deployment, though, I spent half the time mainly in Syria, again, kind of standing post. The time we were back in Kuwait, we were kind of there as the TRAP, which is Tactical Recovery of Aircraft and Personnel. Besides doing all that, in between, we would do a little bit of training here and there, maybe do a range, do a little bit of classes, and not a whole lot, right? So not a whole lot of things were going on. I mean, the majority of my stories mainly came from Syria and my time that I spent there. So those, though, will be for a different day. Today, though, we're going to be talking about 10 things that are probably going to happen to you as soon as you get to the fleet. So before we actually get into the actual video, don't forget to like, subscribe, it really does help me a lot. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I do upload. Let's go ahead and get started. So first thing that's probably going to happen to you, doesn't matter which base you're at. I've seen this even on deployment. In majority of porta potties, you're going to see somewhere, Wagner loves cock. I don't know who started this. I don't know who even Wagner is supposed to be. Is it a male? Is it a female? What is the premise behind this person who apparently loves, I don't think anyone, even on YouTube, has really ever done a video as far as trying to figure out who this person was, or was it just something that just kind of spread like wildfire? Because, hell, I even saw this in SOY, right? Which is actually, I think, the first time I ever saw it there. And then as soon as I got to the fleet, in 29 Palms, I started seeing it a lot more. I've had friends on the East Coast tell me that they've seen it. I've had people on deployments tell me that they've seen it. I don't know, but you're going to see it more likely than not. Number 2, you're going to hear this term called POG. Now, if you're following the streamers or watching any people do gameplay, I bet you've heard the word been thrown around lately called POG or poggers, things like that. I mean, hell, I didn't know what it was. I feel like I'm too old at this point. 27, but I feel like I'm already 40, 50. And I heard this word and I hear poggers, and then I see how it's spelled. And I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like the word pogue, or spelled like the word pogue, right? Which in the military has a completely different meaning, as when the streaming world is supposed to be a positive. In the Marine, it's more of a negative term. I mean, not a whole lot, but it just means person other than grunt. If you're an admin, if you're in a motor T, anything else, if you're not an O3, you're considered a pogue, right? It's kind of supposed to be kind of derogatory, but honestly, in my case, I was kind of like meh about it, right? Because and I was always told, I was told by my squad leader, hey, make friends with people who are not in the O3 MOS. Make friends with people in Motor T. Make friends with people in supply. People who are admins in like the S shops, right? For example, the more friends you have in those types of jobs, the S shop, right? If you need some paperwork that needs to get filled, wouldn't you kind of work more to get someone's paperwork who you're actually friends with instead of someone who's like an asshole, right? Making fun of you? Or supply. Not saying this happens, I'm not saying it did happen or if it didn't happen, but sometimes there's some gear, right, that they just got to get rid of. It's like, hey, I'll take it, I'll take it off your hands, and boom, some free gear, right? Now, or they're more willing to work with you as far as getting actual new gear that you legitimately lost, right? Just little things like that. So make friends with people who aren't in O3 MOSs. But poggers and pogue, spelled the same, sound different, mean different. Number 3. You're going to see a lot of high divorce rates. Or if you are currently married and you are in there and you, for example, 29 Palms, and you bring your wife out there, right? There's always that challenge of putting a spouse through a deployment, right? If they don't cheat on you, if they don't do anything, and they remain faithful, loyal, and all that, you've got a winner. You got someone who's really going to be there with you. But obviously, if you end up staying in longer for like trying to go for 20 years or even 10 years, you gotta imagine, right, if you continue to stay in the infantry or even sometimes in an admin position where you're consistently working late, right, and you don't get to spend a whole lot of time home, eventually your spouse might get tired of it, right? So it's kind of just up to you and how you want to play that out. But there's a lot of high divorce rates on deployments, and specifically, one of them, I had a friend who his wife literally ended up selling everything, divorcing him, sold his dog, which is pretty fucked up in my opinion, and pretty much left him with nothing when he was coming back. And then we had someone else who was on ITX, which is your last little month field op, and this was we weren't even deployed, and this dude's wife, someone else, had already done all that to him, and even sold the dog as well, right? So, you know, you're gonna see that a lot. I'm not saying it's gonna happen to you specifically, but this is definitely something that you're gonna definitely see. And if you're married, just know, like, hey, things could possibly happen. You know, I'm just trying to at least let you know ahead of time. All right, number 4. The Barracks are kind of considered the hood of the Marine Corps, right? Specifically in the infantry side of things. I can't really speak too much about on the admin side. We had a couple of admin dudes share some of the same barracks, but you will see some of the craziest shit. Like literally Marines setting trash cans on fire because they're bored. You got them fighting in the laundry room 3 in the morning. You got dudes trying to catch rats. Yes, there's sometimes rats in the barracks, right? And you will see just some of the craziest shit. You see people drinking all over the night, consistent noise, people knocking on your door and saying, hey, we're drinking out here, why aren't you out here? And it's like 2 in the morning. You're gonna see even different units. I mean, we had, was it 2-7 who was across the street from us, from 3-7? Sometimes they would get in shouting arguments, right? And a lot of these people, I mean, you would assume it's just like little friendly fun, right? But obviously, you know, the unit fights, and then you get a whole bunch of, my phone just vibrated. And then all of a sudden it gets recorded, it's posted online, and then obviously the chain of command sees it and says, what the fuck is going on here? And all of a sudden everybody is getting in trouble, right? So you're gonna see some crazy ass shit. Number 5, going back to where I was kind of saying on number 2, where I was saying that you want to make friends with some of the supply guys, right? Because the gear is missing. You're going to lose one piece of gear, more likely than not. This could be either because people steal that shit from you and they claim on their life that they didn't take it, or you just lose it. I mean, I lost a strap cutter. I only ever touched it like twice. Once when I actually got it, and then once when we did like a full-on SIF inspection, right? You're going to lose gear, so make friends. Right? And if you're turning gear in, and if you're about to PCS somewhere else or EAS and actually get out of the whole Marine Corps entirely, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either file the actual paperwork to try to get more gear. Obviously, it's going to come out of your paycheck. Training commands and ask you, why did you lose this? You're a shit bag. What the hell is going on? Or you can do what I did. Instead of having to deal with all that fucking noise and getting told that you're a shit bag, just go to eBay. There's a lot of people specifically around base 2 that have like little surplus shops, and they have gear that looks exactly like the ones that you were issued. Now, make sure that if it has a tag on it, you rip that tag off. I mean, sometimes you might not be able to, just because sometimes it's literally ingrained into the actual shirt. But for the most part, SIF, at least for me, didn't really check that. But you can buy shit on eBay also, right? And it's going to save you a whole lot of heartache. There's even a website that you can get from SIF that's going to tell you like every piece of gear that you were issued. It'll tell you the serial number. It'll tell you how much everything costs at retail, right? And you can even get cheaper prices online, specifically on eBay, because they know that when dudes are going to get out, they need the gear. Otherwise, they can't get that checked off their little checkout sheet, right? All right, number 6. If you ever hear, hey, we're just going to go on a nice, easy run, you better get ready to fucking sprint, because this dude is about to take off. As soon as he takes off, after about 30, 45 seconds of pure sprinting, he's going to stop. He's going to tell everybody, hurry the fuck up. As soon as everybody gets there, he's going to take off sprinting again. So, running, very crucial. Anytime you hear nice, easy run, get ready to sprint. That's kind of a short one, but it's something that would catch you off guard a lot. Number 7, some Marines just suck at shooting, right? No matter how much they claim, hey, I fucking shot that target. It's like, no, you didn't. Because I'm in the pit and I'm on your target and you're not getting any hell. I'm having to make holes for you just to not have you completely fail, right? It's called pit love, right? And specifically remember this because I was on target 26 and we were in line, right? About to turn in our rifles at the end of the day. Someone tried to figure out who was on 26. I was like, hey, that was me. Hey, well, how much you fucking marking things? I was like, first of all, watch your fucking attitude with that, right? And then I told him, you were missing. I'm literally having to poke in targets just to make sure that you don't fail. Is your shit BZO'd? I was telling this, it's essentially saying that your RCO is adjusted to your barrel, so that way when you actually shoot where you are shooting, it is actually going on there. Like you're not shooting and then it's going to the left because your shit's not BZO'd. And apparently this guy's some god, right? And saying like, oh no, all my shit's good. Like, oh, okay. Well, we'll see. Because come qual day, if my paper that I have in the pit and the paper who's the person who's watching them, because there's going to be like 2 or 3 people on a target, right? There's going to be different types of relays. They're going to be keeping score too. If our scores don't match, right? We're both going to get fucked. So, and sometimes people have, right? And I'm not trying to do that because it's like, hey, it's not my fault, you suck. If you're shooting and it's not going where you want it to go, start readjusting. Do you shoot more to the left? Do you shoot more to the right? Are you aiming too low or too high? I had to do this myself on the last time I was at the rifle range. I shot right where I was shooting at the 500 mark and nothing, right? I missed. I was like, shit, okay, I gotta take a guess now, right? Because you only got a certain amount of shots. I forgot how much it was at the 500. So I aimed to the right. So you got the 2 actual sticks and the target in the center. So I aimed at the right stick, right? The right side of it. And as soon as I aimed there, same spot, I hit paper. But I hit, because there's like a little black circle, and then there's the outer circle. I hit like right in the middle, right? It was still off to the left a little bit. So okay, so for some reason, my shit is messed up. It's not messing up, like I'm not hitting too high or too low. For some reason, when I shoot, it's curving all the way to the left. I don't know what it is. My RCO seemed fine, and I'm just gonna readjust. I was actually only one of the people who actually used my fucking book. So as soon as I aimed a little more onto the left side of the stick on the other target on the right side, boom, black every time, right? So submarines, you're gonna see just suck at shooting. And if this is happening to you, readjust. Don't complain about it, just readjust your shooting, right? And you're gonna have a couple days where it's just practice. So make sure your shit's good before that. Number eight is kind of an obvious one. I mean, it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to at least, I'm gonna say at least 95%, in my opinion. It could be less, could be more. As far as you'll probably take up drinking, most likely that's probably the most popular one. Dipping is kind of a 50-50. Smoking is also kind of a 50-50. I tried all 3, never really found a smoking because you had to always be at the smoke pit in order to do it. And drinking, fuck man, everybody practically drinking. There's a few people that didn't, and you know, it's like didn't really care whether they did or not. I mean, they were still pretty fun to be around with. And as far as dipping, I dipped for quite a bit of time. Recently just kicked it and saving my gums now. It's not really fucking up my teeth anymore, which my teeth are really crooked, so I don't want to mess them up anymore. But one of those habits you're probably going to pick up. At least we'll try, in my opinion. I've seen everybody at least try once. Number 9. Now, when you're checking out and you actually go to try to get your checkout sheet, I believe it was that you had to go talk to the careers officer, right? And they're essentially going to ask you the same questions like, hey, why are you, like, what are you trying to do? Like, are you looking to re-enlist, to not re-enlist? You know, like, what's the deal? And I remember in my own experience telling them, hey, I'm not looking to re-enlist. And he goes up straight up and tells me, why? I was like, I remember thinking in my mind, it's really none of your fucking business. Obviously, I didn't say that, but I was like, what does it matter to you? Well, then like, hey, I don't want to. But then later on, obviously, I found out like, hey, they need to make sure that that you have some kind of plan, so that way they can save their ass if some shit does happen, right? Because a lot of times when people barely get out, there's some things that happen. I mean, either you have a positive experience when you come out, or sometimes people go extremely negative when they get out. So they want to make sure that you have some kind of plan. So I told them, hey, I'm going to become a personal trainer, and didn't really tell them about YouTube. Although at that time I wasn't really uploading too much or at all. But not only them, your own staff sergeant, your own platoon commander, sergeant major even at times. He had eventually ended up convincing one of my buddies to extend, right? And then my buddy ended up getting screwed over, obviously, right? And everyone they don't necessarily get pissed right out, but you can tell that they're not happy that you're not re-enlisting. And a lot of the things, it's like, you're wondering why people don't want to re-enlist. A lot of it has to do with the actual leadership, right? For the most part, unless they're at a small level unit level, they don't really care about you too much, right? They only care about what you can do for them, right? And that's honestly why, at least in my own experience, a lot of people don't want to re-enlist. And then the training command acts oblivious as to why people aren't re-enlisting. So, number 10, last one, and I saved this one for last just because it's kind of, it might cause me to go off on a little bit of a rant, especially on the infantry side of things, right? And even on some admin, because some admin do deploy. And it's essentially, you're going to see a lot of people change, even including your peers that you thought you knew, and they're going to change. It could be for the better or the worse. Typically, in my experience, it was for the worse. A couple of my peers really didn't care too much about like overplaying what we were actually capable of. But I saw a lot of people as soon as we came back. Bear in mind, we were in Kuwait, we didn't do anything, right? A little fucking vacation practically compared to a couple years before that. And then people coming back and then treating this like a high school. Granted, I understand a lot of people who joined the Marine Corps were kind of fresh out of high school, right? But then as soon as they come back from that first deployment, all of a sudden they're this big badass type dude who no one can stop. And it's like, how do you get such an ego from a Kuwait deployment? At least like a Kuwait deployment right now. I don't understand that, right? And I was hoping, for me personally, to actually change that little cycle, at least within our platoon. And I had a couple of friends that were kind of on board, but obviously we didn't have the majority. So things happened as they were, and we just had our own different types of methods of teaching. I'm not saying one teaching method is better than the other. I've seen some Marines succeed at both of them. I've seen some Marines fail at both of them, right? Just kind of depending on how you want to run things. But for example, there was one specific instance, I believe I said this before in another video. We were in, I forgot what kind of field op it was, but it was in between, I know it was somewhere in between our first and second deployment. Now, at that point, we had people that were, there was a lot of quote-unquote hazing things going on. I mean, obviously, in my opinion, I don't think they were. I think it's just people got upset that people were yelling at them, you know. I mean, hell, it's the Marine Corps. People are going to yell, right? And at one point, they ended up saying, hey, junior guys aren't going to call them Lance Corporals anymore. And granted, I was a Lance Corporal, and I was like, okay, I genuinely don't care, right? And they said, if you want to be called by a rank, pick up Corporal. Okay, cool. And then we get our acting squad leader, who I didn't necessarily get along with very well, who said, hey, but you guys can't say raw or which is essentially, you know, like shorter version of oorah, which went to raw, and then it just went to and then eventually turned into I don't know. But as soon as he said that, right, like, hey, you guys can't say raw or though, you haven't earned it yet. And then another one of my buddies, who I was very close with and still am close with today, goes, yeah, you guys didn't fucking spend 6 months in Kuwait doing nothing. This guy could be very belligerent and hilarious at the same time. And then, ever since then, all of the peers that did act in that high school bully mentality, like, hey, it happened to me, I'm going to do it to someone else, type deal, really didn't like me, or some other people who did kind of want to do things in a different type of setting, right? And it's like, hey, you guys do your own thing, I'll do my own thing, right? I'll teach them the way I'm going to teach them, specifically when I was in charge of my own fire team, right? And you will also start to see that some people might even change as far as only towards certain people. Smaller the person, they're more willing to actually like try to, I guess, like rough them up, right? And they didn't really try it to anybody who was bigger than them, right? So even though I wasn't very well liked, a lot of the time, they would only ever say little small things to me, or say something to me and not be looking at me, or say something and just kind of whisper it under the breath. And I would just go like, what'd you say? Nothing, right? Nothing. I mean, essentially, to leave that off on a note, people are going to change after their first deployment, whatever that deployment may be. Doesn't matter if it's an Oki deployment, if it's to South Korea, wherever it is, people are going to change. Now, I could understand that if you actually saw combat and you ended up developing some PTSD symptoms, right? I could completely more understand that, right? But you're standing post in Kuwait, dude. How much did you really do? Obviously, that's just my opinion, man. I understand a lot of people might disagree with me. I wasn't necessarily the best Marine, but I tried to be the best Marine that I could. Even though I knew I was only going to stay in for one contract, I didn't want to get other people fucked over. So that is it. That was kind of a big rant there at the end, but I feel like that's the biggest thing that you will see, especially on the infantry side of things. And how you want to act after your first deployment is going to just be dependent on you and how you want to train your guys. I hope a lot of this kind of brought some light to some things that you were going to be probably have things happen to you. You might even just see this happen to a lot of people, but at least now you can kind of at least prepare for some of the things on it, right? And now I've also got a kind of a few lists of like little phrases that you'll hear. I got some boot camp stories, got some stories from Syria, got some stories from when I was in SOY, some funny stories in that one. Just a lot of funny stories in general that I'll be uploading here every now and then in between other videos, right? So if you have other things though that I didn't mention here that you have seen or things that are very common, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Maybe I missed some things. Maybe you can shine some light on some of your own experiences on some of the things I listed here. In any case though, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, it really does help me a lot. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like it. It really does help me improve the channel. And leave me a little bit of a comment so I can kind of know what it was and improve the channel. See you all in the next one. Bye.